Is Biden bribing voters? Inflation isn't going anywhere. And an abortion ban that Democrats and Republicans aren't happy about. Oh, who said abortion can't bring people together? Then more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. You know, there's so much division and conflict in the U.S. right now. I figured it would be cathartic if we open on a topic that everyone can actually agree on. Transgender athletes. The National Association of Intercollegiate Athletes, which oversees 83,000 student athletes at smaller colleges, unanimously voted for a new policy on transgender athletes. The new policy states that all athletes may participate in men's sports, but only athletes whose biological sex, assigned at birth, was female can participate in women's sports. NAIA President and CEO Jim Carr says, "We know there are a lot of opinions and a lot of people have a very emotional reaction to this, and we want to be respectful of all that. But we feel like our primary responsibility is fairness and competition, so we are following that path. And we've tried as best as we could to allow for some participation by all." Participation by all? Does that mean I can finally live out my childhood dream of becoming the world's oldest college athlete? Forget gender. The biggest discrimination in sports is age and talent and ability. There should be a sports league where old slobs get to compete. Oh wait, there already is. It's called the Professional Bowlers Association. Turns out bowling's the most progressive sport on the planet. They don't care whether or not you have balls because they provide their own. The Vatican released a document titled Dignitas Infinita, in which they clarified their stance on sex change surgeries, gender theory, surrogacy, euthanasia, and assisted suicide. TLDR, they're not big fans. The Vatican says these are all threats to human dignity. No word on their thoughts on hot dog eating contests, though, as to how those pertain to human dignity. Though I guess it could be argued they are a type of assisted suicide. As for their thoughts on gender theory and sex reassignment surgeries, the Vatican essentially says members of the LGBTQ community should be protected, but clarified that gender is not a construct because it was created by God, and to try and change one's gender would be playing God. And to those that would argue God might be a construct, the Catholic Church says blasphemy. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre responded to this document saying, "We are pleased to see that the document furthered the Vatican's call to ensure that LGBTQ+ are protected from violence and imprisonment around the world. However, the President will continue to be an advocate for the rights, safety, and dignity of the LGBTQ+ community, including transgender people here in the U.S." Wow, that was surprisingly respectful. Although it isn't surprising Jean-Pierre would respect Catholic priests, since both of their jobs involve interpreting the often confusing word of a higher power that a lot of people don't believe in. But the real question everyone should be asking isn't what the Vatican has to say about this, but what the Bible has to say about this. Specifically, the God Bless the USA Bible, the only Bible endorsed by Donald Trump. Besides the Word of God, it also includes the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance. The only Bible that's more American than that is this, and I can't stress this enough, very real, hollowed-out King James Bible used to store revolvers that you can purchase on Amazon. Revolver, hopefully, not included. All right, we've covered transgendered athletes and religion. Let's move on to something a little less controversial. Abortion. Donald Trump says if elected president again, instead of supporting a national abortion ban, he would leave the issue up to the states. Which means that, hypothetically speaking, conservative states like Arizona could override their current 15-week abortion ban and uphold an 1864 law that creates a near-total ban on abortion unless it would save the life of the mother. And if you're wondering why that example was so specific, it's because that's exactly what the Arizona Supreme Court decided to do this week, saying the old law took precedence. This law can be repealed and will likely be on the ballot in November. Arizona Republicans were quick to denounce this law, partially because they don't want to enforce a law that went on the books before Arizona was a state and when slavery was still legal, and mostly because abortion has been a losing issue for Republicans, costing them numerous elections. Wow, so they can learn. And here I thought Republicans were bound and determined to claim defeat from the jaws of victory. Meanwhile, super liberal places like California could hypothetically go the opposite route and decide to allow abortion up until 900 weeks. Better study for that calculus test, Johnny. You're still in the danger zone. Trump explained his stance.
Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart or, in many cases, your religion or your faith.
And what better way to follow your religion or your faith than with a God Bless the USA Bible? Be sure to check out the website for helpful hints on what to do if your Trump Bible has sticky pages. And speaking of people who might be in hell, the juice is no longer on the loose. Coming up after the break. Welcome back. OJ Simpson, a former football star, Naked Gun actor, and, acquitted murderer, died. He was 76 years old. Simpson's family announced his cause of death was prostate cancer. However, the cancer maintains its innocence and swears it won't rest until it finds OJ's real killer. A total solar eclipse passed over the U.S. on Monday in a 115-mile wide route known as the Path of Totality. This was an excellent opportunity to witness a rare natural phenomenon that also looks like a scene from The Tape in the Ring. And it was an even greater opportunity to scam folks out of some money. The American Astronomical Society warned that counterfeit eclipse glasses were flooding the marketplace and that viewing the sun while wearing these could damage your eyes. This is the worst case of someone wearing fake lenses since the craze of hipsters buying non-prescription thick-rimmed glasses. Faking a physical disability as a fashion statement still feels like some kind of mental disability. Speaking of things that are sky-high and painful to look at, grocery prices. But despite how it might feel, though, wages are actually outpacing inflation, according to the Labor Department and several economists. Although this is based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, or the CPIU, which excludes food and energy and is, let's just call it, controversial. So, grain of salt. Nonetheless, wages are especially on the rise in California, where the minimum wage for fast food workers rose to $20 an hour, the highest in the nation. And since this is California, their good intentions had absolutely no unintended consequences, and everyone lived happily ever after. The end. We'll see you next time on America Uncovered. Just kidding. Several fast food locations closed, including Mod Pizza and Foster's Freeze. A San Francisco franchise owner of 5 Auntie Anne's and 5 Cinnabons explained to Fox Business what this would mean for his business operation.
Across my 10 locations, the increase in the wage rate is going to cost me $470,000, so just about $50,000 per location.
He says that to remain in business, he'll likely need to cut employees and or raise prices, which is tough since Cinnabons are already so expensive, mostly because after eating one, you need to go out and buy a bunch of pricey diabetes medicine. This new higher minimum wage for fast food workers is also causing an issue with California schools, as many cafeteria workers are thinking of leaving to go to work in fast food where the salaries are now higher. Of course, those jobs will be hard to come by as so many are being cut. So to try and help people out of poverty, California raised the minimum wage, causing companies to lay people off, plunging them deeper into poverty. But don't worry, I'm sure we can get these economic issues under control if the U.S. cuts spending and pays back its debt. In unrelated news, President Biden announced he would cancel interest balances for millions of student loan borrowers and offer loan forgiveness for millions more. If only he could cancel the U.S. debt that easily. Sure, there might be unintended consequences to the student loan relief plan, but Biden is doing this because it's the right thing to do. And he definitely didn't announce these plans in the battleground state of Wisconsin during an election year to try and butter up voters. No, he's not buying voters, he's just persuading voters with money. It's totally different. Another battleground state Biden's worried about is Michigan, especially after so many people voted uncommitted in the Michigan Democratic primary that uncommitted picked up 2 Democratic delegates. These votes were in protest of the U.S. support of Israel in their war with Hamas. Speaking of, a pro-Palestinian rally in Dearborn, Michigan last weekend saw chants of death to America break out.
الموت لأمريكا! الموت لأمريكا! الموت لأمريكا!
I'm sure when Biden thought that, he must have thought, great! Considering how much Fox and other right-leaning media say I'm hell-bent on destroying this country, I'm sure to get that sweet death to America vote now. It's just another example of something that makes you lose faith in this country. But on the bright side, if you need faith, you can get it for the low, low price of only $60 when you purchase the God Bless the USA Bible. And if you need more faith in America, you can see the realized potential of this country epitomized in California rolls. How? And how do they relate to the video game Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth? Find out on my other channel, Gamers Unbeaten. Check it out. An America Uncovered wouldn't exist without your support. Click that orange button to support us on Patreon. All it takes is $1 an episode, and you can set a monthly limit. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.